The Election Watch Committee is a partnership of three organizations with different expertise background: Peace Ambassadors the Gambia, Activista, and the National Youth Parliament, the NYP, collaborating to observe the electoral processes in the Gambia. The EWC's observation of the 2022 parliamentary elections will build on the EWC's observation of the 2021 presidential election, including the voter registration process, the display of provisional list of voters, the candidate nomination and campaign period, and of course, the 2021 presidential election day, ahead of the April 9 parliamentary elections. The EWC has observed the candidate nomination process and is now observing the campaign period.
Election Watch pre-election observation, and this is our second update since the campaign start, but in total this is our third update because we have an update before we start the observation proper. And here is our update. The Elections Watch Committee is a partnership of three organizations with different expertise, background. Peace Ambassadors the Gambia, Activista the Gambia, and the National Youth Parliament the Gambia, collaborating to observe the electoral process in the Gambia. The EWC's observation of the 2022 National Assembly elections will build on EWC's observation of the 2021 presidential election processes, such as the voter registration, the display of provisional list of voters, the candidate nomination, the campaign period, and the 2021 presidential election day. Ahead of the 9th April National Assembly elections, EWC has observed the candidate nomination process and is now observing the campaign period. In summary, the Elections Watch Committee has trained and deployed a total of 71 long-term observers to observe the pre-election process within the Gambia for the 2022 National Assembly elections. This update contains observations findings covering the Independent Electoral Commission's official campaign period from 17th to 26th of March 2022. It contains findings from the observation of campaigns conducted by political parties and independent candidates within different constituencies during this period. The update also reflects observers' reports on IEC preparedness, the conduct of civic education and voter information campaigns, COVID-19 prevention measures, as well as recommendations. The EWC will continue to observe and will submit a final campaign update at the close of the process. Overall, Election Watch observers' reports from the first half of the official campaign period indicate that campaign activities have begun in almost all constituencies and have been generally peaceful with isolated instances of violence. Observers reported witnessing or hearing about violence of code of conduct, campaign ethics by political parties and independent candidates, such as instances of voter card buying, use of government vehicles, and distributions of gifts and money to voters during the campaign. The EWC observers further noted election preparedness by the IEC as well as voter sensitization activities ongoing in some parts of the country by NCCE and civil society organizations. Methodology. Elections Watch Committee deployed a total of 71 long-term observers to observe the pre-election process within the Gambia for the 2022 National Assembly elections. These include 14 nomination observers comprising 3 regional coordinators and 11 observers, and 60 campaign observers comprising 7 regional coordinators, each for a region, and 53 constituency observers, 1 representing each constituency, to nominate the conduct of the National Assembly candidate nomination and campaign process in their respective regions and constituencies. All Election Watch observers were carefully selected, thoroughly trained, and accredited by IEC. All Election Watch observers were instructed to observe campaign activities and rallies of political parties and independent candidates in their respective areas, covering the total of 53 constituencies within the Gambia. Observers were trained to observe campaign activities and send in reports on 3 designated days during the campaign period: 15th March, 26th March, and 7th of April 2022, as well as a critical incident whenever they occur. For this reporting period, every observer sent in their observation report using a comprehensive observer checklist via a coded text message using their mobile phones to the Elections Watch National Information Center. Regional coordinators and constituency observers deployment breakdown. In Banjul, we have 3 constituencies, and we also deploy 3 constituency observers with 1 regional coordinator and 2 nomination observers. In Kanifing municipality, where we have 7 constituencies, EWC deploys 7 constituency observers, 1 regional coordinator and 2 nomination observers. In West Coast region, where we have 13 constituencies, EWC deployed 13 constituency observers, 2 nomination observers, and 1 regional coordinator. In North Bank region, where we have 7 constituencies, EWC deployed 7 constituency observers, 2 nomination observers, and 1 regional coordinator. In Lower River region, where we have 6 constituencies, EWC deployed 6 constituency observers, 2 nomination observers, and 1 regional coordinator. In Central River region, where we have 11 constituencies, EWC deployed 11 constituency observers, 2 nomination observers, and 1 regional coordinator. In URR, where we have 6 constituencies, EWC deploys 6 constituency observers, 2 nomination observers, and 1 regional coordinator. Totaling to 53 constituencies with 53 constituency observers, 7 regional coordinators, and 14 nomination observers. Findings. The Election Watch Committee's National Assembly Campaign Update provides comprehensive information on reports from Election Watch observers deployed across the country during the first half of the official campaign period, from 17th to 26th of March 2022. This update also includes findings from the conduct of civic and voter education on elections, the IEC preparedness, as well as COVID-19 preventive measures. These findings are based on 53 reports received from EWC's observers' reports from the 53 EWC's constituency observers. Political party campaigns. For the first half of the official campaign period, EWC's observers reported that political parties and independent candidates nationwide have launched their campaigns. In 52 of 53 constituencies, observers reported witnessing or hearing of at least 1 campaign event or rally being conducted by candidates from parties such as NPP, UDP, as well as independent candidates and other parties. Observers also reported seeing the posting of flyers by parties and independent candidates. In its previous report on the period prior to the start of the campaign period, EWC highlighted violation of Code of Campaign Ethics by political parties and candidates during the first half of the campaign period. EWC observers again reported Code of Conduct violations, including instance of buying of voters' cards, use of government vehicles for campaign, as well as distribution of money and gift items to voters during campaigns. In 5 of 53 constituencies, observers reported witnessing or hearing instances of buying of voters' cards. Also in 7 of 53 constituencies, observers reported witnessing the distribution of money or gifts to voters. In 6 of 53 constituencies, observers reported witnessing the use of government vehicles, while in an addition of 2 constituencies, observers reported hearing the use of government vehicles for campaigning. IEC preparedness and voter education information. Voter information. EWC commends electoral partners and the IEC for the level of election preparedness and voter sensitization messaging being conducted ahead of the 9th April National Assembly elections. Observers reported witnessing or hearing that the IEC had begun preparations for the 9th April National Assembly elections in their area in half of the total constituencies. Also, in 35 of 53 constituencies, observers reported the conduct of civic education and voter information campaign being conducted by the IEC, NCCE, civil society organizations, and others, including campaigns directed at women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Update on COVID-19 prevention. Elections Watch observers during the first half of the campaign period reported low level of sensitization on COVID-19, with 38 of 53 constituency observers reporting that they had not heard or been exposed to any COVID-19 sensitization messages. Nevertheless, in 30 of 53 constituencies, observers reported that parties and candidates sometimes adhere to COVID-19 safety protocols at campaign events, mainly through the use of face masks. Update on electoral violence and security. Generally, the first half of the campaign have been peaceful as reported by EWC observers. Observers noted the low presence of security forces during campaign rallies, which were reported in only 17 of 53 constituencies. However, only in 2 constituencies, observers reported hearing use of hate speech or inflammatory messages during campaign rallies and on social media. EWC observers reported 3 instances of violent actions. For example, in one of the instances, an EWC observer reported hearing of a group of women obstructing a campaign convoy of candidate and current member of parliament, Honorable Amunyasi at Fonyi Kansala in the Brikama administrative area. In another, an observer reported witnessing a violent conflict ensuing between supporters of NPP and UDP party members, which led to injuries of citizens, while in final instances, EWC observer heard of a violent clash between supporters of NRP and independent candidate in Nyamina Dankunko. Outside of these instances, the Election Watch Committee notes that the first half of the campaign period has been generally peaceful. The Election Watch Committees commends the citizens and political actors in the Gambia for their continuing commitment to a peaceful elections process. Our recommendations. The Election Watch Committee hereby recommends the following. The IEC and IPC should closely monitor the actions of political parties to ensure they are in compliance with the Code of Conduct and Code on Election Campaign Ethics. Further, IEC should employ stringent measures against political parties and independent candidates directly found violating any provision of the Code of Conduct, as well as Code of Campaign Ethics. The Election Watch Committee reminds political parties to refrain from all forms of voter buying. The EWC will also work with the IPC and relevant authorities to provide details of parties and candidates reported to be involved with instances of vote buying, as well as other violations of the Code of Conduct for proper investigations and redress. Political parties and their supporters should refrain from the use of hate speech and inflammatory language during campaigns. Parties and their supporters should also refrain from any violent reaction and call for peaceful participations in the elections. Political parties and their supporters should adhere to the COVID-19 preventive measures by wearing face masks, ensuring physical distance, washing hands, and use of sanitizers. IEC, NCCE, and civil society organizations should double civic education and voter information efforts to reach voters in all parts of the country during the campaign period. Security forces should ensure they have sufficient presence, particularly in hotspot areas, as the elections approach, and proper investigate instances of electoral violence, as well as provide equal protection to all candidates and supporters. The Election Watch Committee encourages all citizens to continue to peacefully engage during the campaign. Elections Watch Committee also remind voters to bring their voter's card and cast their vote on 9th April at the polling station where they voted during the 2021 presidential elections. About the EWC election observation. The Election Watch Committee is a partnership of 3 organizations and other networking members with different expertise and background, collaborating to observe elections in the Gambia. The Election Watch Committee includes Peace Ambassadors the Gambia, Activista the Gambia, and the National Youth Parliament the Gambia. This committee is the decision-making body on all matters relating to the 2021 Elections Watch project PAG serves as the secretariat of the committee. PAG serves as the secretariat of the committee. The Election Watch project is being financed with assistance from the National Endowment for Democracy and technical support from National Democratic Institute for International Affairs, NDI. For more information, you have the contact details of Yankuba Manjang, the Executive Secretary of Peace Ambassadors de Gambia, and Mamadou Juju Jallo, the Program Manager of Peace Ambassadors de Gambia. Degen Diop, Deputy Speaker, NYP, and Omar Danso, National Coordinator at the Vista de Gambia. And you have our the website of Peace Ambassadors de Gambia at www.peaceambassadors.gm, and also our social media handles for Elections Watch, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you very much.
And on the findings that was made by the EWC, the Electoral And on the findings made by the Election Watch Committee's parliamentary nomination and pre-campaign update provides comprehensive information on reports from the Election Watch observers deployed across the country during the nomination process and the period prior to the start of the official campaign, period from the 5th March to the 17th of March 2020. On its findings, the things that they find that were based on the nominations, political party campaigns, the IEC preparations and civic education or voter information, on COVID-19 prevention, and of course on the electoral violence. The Election Watch Committee is a partnership of 3 organizations and other network members with different expertise and background, collaborating to observe elections in the Gambia. The Election Watch Committee includes the Peace Ambassadors, the Gambia, Activista, and the National Youth Parliament. This committee is the decision-making body on all matters relating to the 2021 Election Watch project. PAG serves as the secretariat of the committee. The Election Watch project is being financed with assistance from the National Endowment for Democracy, NED, and technical support from the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs, NDI.